So hi everyone. So welcome and thanks for joining us today. We are thrilled to be joined by Max Rebel from Harvard Industrial Capital, abbreviated as HIC. Yeah, so for those who might be new here, I'm Dixon from OneBlock Plus team, a Polkadot community-driven initiative, focus on bringing more developers into the Polkadot ecosystem. And we always run, bootcamp courses, hackathons, and the content program, to help developers to go from learning and to actively building in the Polkadot ecosystem. So for today, our theme is from grants to growth, and it's going to be HICs, that is Harvard Industrial Capital's blueprint for Polkadot. And so joining us today is Max Rebel and co-founder and CEO at HIC, and he has been investing in Web3 for years, worked across global finance, and now, still making Polkadot the next big success story. So let's keep things casual and grab your drink, and we can explore how HIC is helping shape the next growth of Polkadot. So welcome, Max.
Yeah, thank you, Dixon, for inviting me here. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, really great to have you. So so Max, could you briefly introduce yourself and share your journey? From I know you worked in traditional finance and how you transfer yourself, from the traditional finance to Web3 and Polkadot ecosystem.
100%, yeah. So I've been in Asia for almost 15 years now. So this is very much my home base as well. And I basically did my entire career in the traditional finance sector in Hong Kong. Even before Hong Kong, I was in China already, in mainland China, in Shanghai, where I did my PhD, and then moved to Hong Kong to work at first like 2 different consulting companies that were essentially doing research on behalf of VC and private equity funds. And then I moved into 2 different investment banks, first Morgan Stanley and afterwards Deutsche Bank, both in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And so kind of working more in the TradFi space there. Obviously, great time. I learned a lot, really enjoyed it. But then around like 2016 or so, I discovered Bitcoin. Didn't really have anything to do with my work there at Morgan Stanley. I just, through the Bitcoin community in Hong Kong, I got to learn about it, and I got really excited about Bitcoin. Went to all of their meetups, all of their community events in Hong Kong. There is a very early there was a very early Bitcoin community and very active in Hong Kong as well during that time, and so I was very much part of that. And then actually it was like the Bitcoin Association of Hong Kong that hosted Gavin at some point to come to, when he was doing his Asia tour, to talk about the first launch of Polkadot when Gavin was still at Ethereum and decided to move over, or decided to start Polkadot. And so I learned about Polkadot then, and it really resonated with me. It really made a lot of sense. I really liked it. And then I decided to invest privately. And that obviously went very well. And then it just, the Polkadot journey, well, let's say the crypto journey in general, but the Polkadot journey in specific took up more and more of my time. More and more than my main job. Deutsche Bank at that point.
They take over.
It took kind of over. And then I decided at some point it was kind of a good time to make the switch and move into crypto full time and essentially start my own fund together with Mario, who's now my co-founder, and focus exclusively on the Polkadot ecosystem.
That's pretty exciting. That's a great story, and I can see you are pretty early, get into the Bitcoin, right? Like early adopter then. Okay, so building on this, so what inspired you, to co-found, Harvard Industrial Capital, and how has your vision, evolved since Fund 1, as we all know?
So Fund 1 was around the time when the parachain auctions started, right? If you remember that, when the first Moonbeam, Astar, Akala, they did their first parachain auction. So what we realized is that there's actually some pretty interesting arbitrage that you can make if you hold DOT and like speak directly with the teams that need DOT to secure their lease, because they're either working with a crowd loan or they are working with like some other DOT holder with who they can make a private deal. And we did that a couple of times, went really well for us. And then like other people also became interested, people who already held DOT and who were like, okay, I would like to be part of that. How can we best do it? And then we decided to set up this fund structure, right? So we did our first payment fund to be able to accept DOT from these other external investors, and then use those DOT in the parachain auctions. So we did that actually for 2 years. I think we were, the most active contributor to parachain auctions throughout like ever, right? So we did that, and we just always like negotiated deals, like getting the projects into getting them a parachain slot, and they usually liked working with us because it's more predictable to do a negotiated deal than a crowd loan, where you don't really necessarily know how it's going to end at the end of the day. You have more planability, so that's why people like it.
Okay.
But anyways, I mean, fast forward, right? Now, obviously, crowd loans don't exist, or parachain auctions don't exist anymore, because we transitioned to agile core time, which, generally speaking, I have to say I'm in favor of, right? I think it's a good idea to have transitioned to this model, because it's just easier for projects to deploy quickly, and like people who just want to like maybe test something out quickly, they get to deploy their smart contract within minutes after purchasing some core time, rather than locking in a 2-year lease, right? So I think it's good for the ecosystem that we transition to that. And as a result of that, like our second fund has nothing to do with like parachain auctions anymore, but only does like classical VC. And with classical VC, I mean we're essentially offering money, right, cash or stable coins, for an equity stake in the project. So that's what we do, right? And we've already supported many different projects through that way, and we're planning to support many more. But yeah, that's where we are now.
Yeah, we can definitely see, the Polkadot ecosystem has evolved greatly recently. It's more efficient and more friendly, to newcomers, to the developers. And I saw your interview, with Jay, for Space Monkey, some series, and you on that season you mentioned that not just investing money, but activating the capital. And just can you explain how HIC, leverages, liquidity provision, and how do you see, this not just investing money, but activating the capital? Yeah, what does it mean to you?
Exactly. Well, I mean, so the way I think about it, I'm a very incentives-driven person, right? Which I think should be normal for anyone in crypto. Everyone is reacting to incentives. And when we invest in a project, right, and we hold, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of their equity, then obviously we are very much incentivized to support them in whichever way we can, right? And we really do that, right? If we are like a shareholder in a project, we will do anything that is in our power to support them. Now, what are like sort of the things that projects need from an investor? I mean, actually, the most important thing that they usually need is introductions to more investors, right? Because as soon, like, we're usually doing a seed round, but as soon as you're done raising a seed round, right, you're looking, for the next round, or maybe we're coming in the pre-seed and then we're looking to raise a seed round, then maybe later a Series A, Series B, and so on and so on. So of course, a founder is always looking for capital. For us,
Yeah.
We're very active because we have a very large investor network of other VCs and other investors. So we constantly go out of our way to talk positively about projects that we invested in, because we're incentivized to do so, right? Of course, we want them to do well. And then when they're raising a second round, right, then oftentimes, they raise from other investors in our network.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a positive flywheel effect, because, it benefits the new investor as they're coming in at, still a very good valuation. It benefits us because these guys are getting more funding, and it benefits the project itself. So that's what we can do on the capital introductions. To make it not sound so abstract, I can give you a pretty concrete example. So we invested in Mandala Chain.
Mandala Chain. Okay. Yeah.
Indonesian project, working closely with the Indonesian government. We really like them. So we're currently their largest investor. But we also made multiple introductions to other investors for Mandala Chain, and several of them, without mentioning names now, but several of them actually already came in, right? They also, after us, invested in Mandala Chain. So obviously, that's something that Mandala Chain, very much appreciate, right? Because without us, they probably wouldn't have these kind of introductions. So I guess that's one bucket in which way we can help the projects. I guess a second bucket, how we can help the projects, is when we're doing a VC deal, when we're investing in projects, then we're getting a lot of tokens, obviously, right? That's kind of the whole point of it. But rather than sitting on these tokens, like many other VC funds do, frankly speaking, we like to actively manage those positions. And what I mean with that is that we can use them for staking, right? So running validators, essentially.
Right. Running data.
So I give you once again another example. So Peak Network, we're an investor there. And so we're running 2 validators for them, right? With using the Peak tokens that we received as part of our VC deal. And of course, it's a good thing for them, right? For Peak Network, because then you have more parties operating validators, right? It's more decentralized, it makes the network stronger, a higher amount of Peak is staked. And so, rather than just sitting on it, we're actually actively using that. So I guess that's one second way we can add value. A third way maybe is liquidity pools, right? So again, rather than sitting on the tokens and not doing anything with it, we can actually put them into AMMs. So for example, on hydration, right? When we hold the tokens, we can put them into the Omni pool. If they're already listed on the Omni pool, oftentimes the early stage project, they're more listed on an isolated pool, not the Omni pool. But also on an isolated pool, right? We can put these tokens to work, which is usually something that the projects welcome, because it creates deeper liquidity for them. So this is something that they like to see. And what else? Yeah, that's kind of on the token side. And then just more generally, introductions, right? Introductions is the name of the game. So for example, for listing on an decentralized exchange, we recently made an introduction that helped the project get listed, or maybe someone is looking for a market maker, so they're looking around. We introduced them to a top tier market maker that they onboarded now. So this kind of stuff, right? This is something we're obviously happy to do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's quite exciting. Yeah, we definitely see. We definitely see some successful investment you guys have been made. Mandala Chain and the Peak Network, stuff like that. And we can tell that probably it's just the capital. What you mean is that not only the money, but also helping them building connections, and also running nodes, stuff like that. Yeah, to really help the project to be sustainable in the long run. And so today, from the legalization in Hong Kong, and we can see a lot of sectors of the narratives, especially from stablecoin to RWA, and so what do you see as the most promising parts for Polkadot, for this year or the next year?
Yeah, no, great question. So I mean, you mentioned Hong Kong, which is the city where I'm based since many years. I love Hong Kong. It's a great city, and it really is true that the regulators, so specifically the SFC and the HKMA, have been becoming more and more crypto friendly. That already went on for maybe a year or so, but it really accelerated, in June this year, when the HKMA passed the new stablecoin ordinance, which is essentially a new framework for getting fiat-pegged stablecoins licensed under Hong Kong law.
Right.
And it's actually a pretty straightforward framework. It just puts out the rule of the roads. That's what you have to do to become compliant, to become regulated, to become compliant. And I think it's great because stablecoins are just such a massive use case. It's kind of nothing fancy nowadays anymore, but it's still the lowest hanging fruit. And I think stablecoin adoption is still in its infancy. The use cases are just tremendous, and to have a well-run, well-licensed regime in Hong Kong is really good.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for Polkadot? So Polkadot for stablecoin specifically is a really, really good framework, a really good base layer infrastructure. Because if you look at Asset Hub, the stablecoin, USDT, USDC transaction fees are fractions of a cent. It's really, really low, and it just works. It's essentially instant confirmation. It's just an infrastructure that is like Asset Hub is made for stablecoin transactions, right? Also the fact that it's not on the relay chain, but that it's offloaded onto Asset Hub in this case, right, is very powerful. So so just technically speaking, it's a very, very good environment to be in. And now that the HKMA passed this new law, there are a bunch of stablecoin issuers that are coming out and trying to issue new Hong Kong dollar stable coins.
Yeah, I heard.
But also US dollar stable coins, both of them in Hong Kong, right? And this is something where we're essentially, working with them to use Polkadot technology for running this. So we're kind of working a little bit on the onboarding here. It's not always easy, right? Because of course, other guys like Solana, like Avalanche, like Ripple, right? They're also trying to do similar stuff. They're also lobbying these stablecoin issuers, but we have good relationships there, and I think we have a very strong case because Polkadot is, from a technology perspective, just the best choice.
Yeah, it also has a pretty high actual TPS in the Polkadot. And so that's quite exciting, and we can definitely see Hong Kong becomes the gateway to the Greater China area, just for Web3 and also for the blockchain technology stuff. So I think we will have two more questions for you, just based on the time. And I think previously you also have spoken just like our topic today, from grants to investment. So you have spoken about shifting Polkadot story from grants to investment, and why this transition is important for the ecosystem right now.
Yeah, no, thank you for this question. I appreciate it. This is something that is near and dear to my heart. Because I'm looking at the treasury, right, and the requests that are being put to the treasury in open gov.
Yeah,
And
OpenBlock.
oftentimes I see projects that are applying for a grant, right, to build on Polkadot, and they ask for maybe $100,000, $200,000, $300,000.
Right.
And all they're kind of offering is to build on Polkadot, right? And this kind of never really made sense to me, like to get these amounts of money to somebody, to anybody, right? I'm not picking any particular company projects here, but to anybody without taking equity in return, right?
Right.
I think it just doesn't make sense from a fundamental perspective. I think grants make sense at a very early stage. So, for example, when you have a founder and he has a great idea and he just needs maybe $10,000 to really test it out thoroughly, and if it works, great. If not, that's the end of it. Like sort of maybe up to $10,000, like a grant makes sense, right? But if you're in the $100,000 to $300,000 to $500,000 range, then why would the treasury be stupid enough? Sorry to say this way, would be stupid enough to give that money away for free, right? It just doesn't make sense. The treasury should be taking equity in return, right?
Right.
That's my opinion, and I'll tell you why, right? One simple reason is that the founders are happy to give it away.
Right.
I mean, I talked to so many founders, right? They are trying to get a treasury grant because that's the only mechanism that is available. And then I spoke with them and said, like, well, would you be willing to, give 5% of your equity away if you get this grant approved, right? Every single one said yes, right? They always say yes. Of course,
yeah,
of
that's
course.
interesting.
Because they want to, because A, it doesn't really cost them much, right? At that part in their journey, why wouldn't they? I mean, they still own 95% of the equity if you give 5% away, right? And 95% is still a lot. But the second reason is that once there is actually an investment rather than a grant, they also automatically have a market capitalization, right? And I don't know, if they give away whatever 10% for $1 million, then they automatically have a market capitalization of $10 million, right? Which is quite nice, right? So then if they later go on to raise subsequent rounds, then they already said, well, we already raised at a $10 million valuation, right? Now we want 15, now we want 20, right? So it's kind of kicking off this process. Whereas if you only get a grant, you don't have a market capitalization. And if you then go to VCs, then you still have to start this negotiation from scratch. And then maybe those guys are, well, okay, we think you only have a $5 million valuation. So it's actually something that is very, very much thought after by founders, and it's in the benefit of the treasury. So I kind of don't really understand why this hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
And just to finish this thought, I guess the reason why it hasn't been done yet is because no such structure exists, right? At the moment, the only thing you can do as a founder is ask for a grant, right?
Yeah.
You cannot really offer the equity, because equity is in seed and pre-seed stages is usually distributed to safes, right? Like simple agreement for future equity, right? That's like a paper claim. That's something that you can't really like put on chain because the token isn't issued yet. It's all like pre-TGE.
Yeah.
So
Pre-TGE.
So it's like a legal contract, right? That has to be enforceable in the real world. So one thing that we're kind of like thinking to do here is create like a structure whereby it allows people to enforce a safe on behalf of the treasury. Right? And the thing I'm thinking about this isn't really like finalized yet, but I'm thinking one pretty attractive structure could be a bounty, right? Because we already have like a marketing bounty, we already have like a events bounty, right? We have a bunch of other bounties. So why not have like an investment bounty, right? Or a venture capital bounty? I think this is something, that would fit in very nicely into the funding landscape. And it would totally turn this whole grants program on its head, because then like a bunch of curators would still be investing on behalf of the treasury. But the treasury is, in a legally enforceable way, the beneficiary of these investments, and at the end of the day, get something back, like get some actual money back at the time that things are exited, right? When they're exited, when they're sold off, then a treasury gets like the money back, like 1-to-1. And it's not just like a trust me, bro kind of contract, but it's actually like a legally enforceable contract.
I see.
In the benefit of the treasury.
Yeah, that's actually a mutual beneficial, to both the open government, the treasury, and also, to the projects or, project who apply, for those treasuries, or what we can call, as investment rather than grants. Grants, like I ask for money and I don't have to give a shit about anything else, once I have the grants. Right?
Exactly. It also ties you much more closely to the ecosystem, right?
Yeah, for this part, I totally agree with you, to be more sustainable for this money growing, right? That's what we actually need. And you can, submit as a proposal, just to let the official people know, right? Okay, so I think, just time passed by really fast. And one more question for you. Just what advice would you give, to developers? Because OneBlock has more like a Polkadot developer community. And what advice would you give to our developers or founders in the Polkadot ecosystem, who want to build fundable and sustainable projects that will attract serious investors?
Yeah, a great question. As a matter of fact, right now I am in Bali at the Polkadot Blockchain Academy, which is happening from now over the next 3 weeks. So one very easy and very actionable advice that I can give to founders is join the PBA, the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. It's a really, really good educational resource that I recommend to anyone. Apply for it, right? It's competitive. It's competitive to get in, but once you're in, then tuition fee and accommodation is paid for, and you get to learn from the best and brightest minds in Polkadot, right? As a matter of fact, the last lecture is given by Gavin himself. So he will be coming to Bali as well to teach a course about Jam. But it's not just him. It's also lots of other people from Parity, from the foundation, from different ecosystem agents, from venture capital funds that are coming to the PBA and are teaching about Polkadot, but then also really helping to work on refining the product market fit, on refining the pitch. It's a very, very valuable resource. So, and the PBA, they're doing these campuses in different parts of the world, right? So they already had one in Hong Kong a year ago that I was part of. They had one in Singapore. They're now having it in Bali. They had it in Switzerland. They had one in California, I think. They had one in the UK, right? So they're doing it in different parts of the world, and educating always a cohort of maybe 60, 70 students at a time, which I think is very, very attractive. And if you're a founder, if you want to learn more about Polkadot, then go to the PBA. So I guess that's that's one way I can answer your question. Now, obviously, it's not the only way that you can build something on Polkadot. It's not that you have to go to the PBA. I mean, the other obvious way of doing things is just start building, right? I think especially now with Polkadot Hub going live and with Agile Core Time, it's easier than ever to deploy a smart contract, right? And I just recommend this to anybody who has an idea. In the past it was hard because you had to win a parachain slot. Now you can just, literally launch on Hub within minutes. And there are a lot of other great tools out there that can be used. and so just deploy, right? Like build an MVP, and show what you can do with it, right?
Yep.
Try to then grow it to a certain stage, right? If you're looking to raise capital, it's always better to have like an MVP already, right? If it's purely an idea, it would have to be a very outstanding idea to, I guess, attract the interest of a venture capital investor.
Yeah.
If you're already, because there's a saying in VC, ideas are cheap, right? Everybody can have like an idea. Oh, I'm gonna build like a centralized marketplace for this and that, and then okay, yeah, but it's just an idea, right? If you already have a product, if you have an MVP that you can show, that you can test out, then that's automatically like much more interesting, right?
Right.
So start building, start showing something, and then go to like us, obviously, right? We're always open for receiving pitches. info@harbourindustrial.com. Just send an email, send a link to your GitHub repo. We're always happy to take a look. And if it's something of interest, then we'll obviously arrange a call and see if we can invest, right? We're investing quite early on, right? We're doing seed, we're doing pre-seed. Oftentimes we're like the first investors through the door. For many of the projects we support, we were the first investor. So this is kind of a position that we want to keep. And we always, like to hear from good founders and people who are building cool stuff on Polkadot.
Right, that's great. That's that's a great note, to end on. And thank you, Max, for sharing, such thoughtful insights today. Just from our HIC unique investment approach, to how Polkadot can move, from grants toward sustainable growth, through the capital, liquidity, and applications. Yeah, so we pretty much conclude our main question today. And the last part will be, we will select probably just 2 questions from the community who have posted, under our X post. So let's see. Let me pick one. So this question is from Sony Love. And I think he or she asked, how has HIC's partnership with the Web3 Foundation as the initial LP for Fund 2 impacted your fundraising and deployment strategy? Yeah, that's a long question.
That's an interesting question. And it's a good question. So Fund 1 was purely private capital, right? I always like to emphasize that. When we started off with Fund 1, we didn't get like a single dollar from the foundation or from the treasury for that matter. So absolutely nothing. All the money we raised was from private investors, such as family offices, Hong Kong-based investors, some guys from Singapore, some people from Japan, from Dubai, some guys from Austria, Germany, Switzerland, in this region. So these were all like individual people that we knew from our banking days, I guess, that we just told the story about Polkadot, and they were like, that makes sense, right? Let me put some money into it, right? So that's how we started. That's our Fund 1. And we did that for like 3 years now, right? And yeah, like purely private capital.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the origination story, right? Fund 2 is a little bit different in the sense that, throughout these 3 years, the Web3 Foundation obviously, heard about what we're doing, and they of course like it, right? Because we're bringing in new capital and we're investing in good projects. We're supporting founders. So of course they liked what they saw. So for the second fund, they essentially offered to be the initial LP in this new fund, right? So they put some money in now that allowed us to kickstart investments, right? And for us, this has kind of, I would say, 2 positive effects, right? One is that, we have like more capital available, but the second advantage is that we also have like an improved deal pipeline, right?
Yeah.
That's very important because obviously the Web3 Foundation is still very central in the Polkadot ecosystem. They're providing grants, for example, to very early stage founders or so on. They're doing like research grants. So obviously they know a lot of good people that are building stuff. And so when these guys are then looking for VC investments, then they can send them to us, right? Or I mean, we're also mentioned now, on the website of the Web3 Foundation under the funding section, right? So people find us more easily. So this is like a very positive thing because it improves our deal flow, it improves our visibility. But I guess one thing that I should mention, right, and that is very important, the discretion over the decision making still rests only with us, right? Only with me and Mario, my co-GP. So we are the only two people that decide on whether or not we're gonna invest in a certain project, even though the Web3 Foundation is currently our largest LP. They don't have any decision-making authority over how we invest, and that's very important. That's very much by design, the way it is.
Yeah, so you still have like a fully control on how you see project, how you value them, and how you evaluate them, and how you want to invest in them. That's pretty great. And one more. Let me see from the post. Okay, this one is like okay. Let's pick this one. What makes Jam special as Polkadot's next big breakthrough or breakout? In HIC's point of view.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I always like to say Jam is not priced in yet. And I think that's the right way to think about Jam from an investor perspective. So I spent my whole, hours awake, researching and learning and like interacting with Polkadot. So I understand pretty well what Jam is and what it's going to do, right? But most of the other investors out there, they don't realize it because Jam is incredibly complex to explain, right? In a few sentences, but it's at the same time an incredibly powerful technology. So that's why I'm saying it's not priced in yet. Currently, dot price is somewhere around $4, right? Once Jam is fully rolled out, I think it's gonna be, orders of magnitude more than that, because Jam is just such a powerful technology, and it's gonna completely change and revolutionize the way Polkadot operates. So that's of course why us as an investor are incredibly bullish on Polkadot or on Doc, let's say, because the Jam network is coming, right? I think there is no doubt at this stage anymore whether it's going to come or not. The gray paper is out, right? Kevin wrote it. It's a brilliant piece of research, and it's being implemented, right? There are a bunch of different Jam teams that are working on implementations in parallel. We've been speaking to multiple of them as well, the implementation teams, by the way. And so it's coming, right? We already know what it is. We already know how powerful it is going to be, but the market hasn't caught up to it yet. Right? And now
hasn't priced in yet.
Exactly, it hasn't been priced in yet.
You said,
So I'll add one more thought here about why we believe that Jam is going to be so powerful, right? Jam isn't just like adding a few features, right? It's not just like a little like fixing, tweaking something or making it like 10% faster or 10% more scalable. No, it's a complete like order of magnitude kind of change. I think like a good illustration is if you think of Bitcoin as a calculator, right? I mean, Bitcoin is great. I love Bitcoin. I don't want to say anything negative about it, but it is a bit like a calculator, right? Alice sends 1 Bitcoin to Bob. Okay, now Bob has 1 Bitcoin. So 0 plus 1, and then 1 more, then it's 1 plus 1 is 2. That's essentially what Bitcoin does, right? It does that in a very smart and very sophisticated and very decentralized way. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a calculator, a ledger at best, right? Ethereum takes it to the next level and essentially says, okay, we're going to add some smart contracts to this.
Yeah.
And we're going to do things like, if this value is above 5, then do that. Otherwise, do this, right? So it's like a very simple like programming language. Of course, very powerful, right? You can do things like, DeFi, right? You can create like an order book with that, right? So these are the things that we've seen with Ethereum, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of restricted to one programming language, right? Which is Solidity.
Solidity, yeah.
And you can do a lot of things, but obviously you cannot do everything. And now we're entering Polkadot Jam. And what Jam kind of is an abstraction layer of blockchains, right? And the best way to think about Jam is as a decentralized supercomputer on which anything and everything can run, right? So you can run any kind of operating system. You can run let's think of it as an operating system on which you can run any kind of application, right? That's what's happening now. Not just like a Solidity smart contract, but literally any machine executable code that has ever been written, since computers were invented, can be run as that, just to make the point. I mean, I think one example that is always quoted now is when Gavin was in Shanghai, right? He for the first time ran Doom.
Doom,
shooter,
saw that.
Shooter game.
Yeah, shooter game.
Right? Yeah, it's a great game, right? I mean, I love the game. I grew up playing it. When I was a kid. So, it's a great game. But he made the point that, you can play this game on chain, and it's not just that it's played on a computer and then like the results of it are kind of shown on the blockchain or what. No, it's not like that. It's that the entire game logic is being executed the same way that a smart contract by Ethereum would be executed. Yeah. So that's an order of magnitude kind of shift, right? No other blockchain in the world out there is capable of doing that, right? And it kind of very nicely illustrates this shift from a very specific use case of a blockchain to a much more generalized use case of running a decentralized supercomputer.
Yeah.
So, let me stop here. I think this is not priced in yet. Very few people understand how big this shift is. But if you start like looking a little bit underneath the surface and start exploring what kind of applications will be possible to be built with that, everyone is going to have like this aha moment and realize what Jam actually is and how massive of a shift this is going to be.
Yeah. That's quite exciting. Yeah, and let's see when the DOS price have the Jam price in and give us a sky rocketing then. Okay, so
that's what we're all waiting for.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Max, for today. Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And let's just keep building, just as you said, start building stuff, experimenting and growing, Give the first step and you can have your project, get invested or get deployed on the ecosystem. So, and of course, follow Harbor Industrial, the capital, and as I wish you to continue support and invest in the future of Polkadot. Okay, so great to have you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you, Dixon, for having me here. Thank you for the OneBlock Plus team. Thank you also to the ex-users that provided the questions. I appreciate being on. And next time we're in Hong Kong or in Shenzhen, let's catch up in person.
Let's definitely grab a drink.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you, Max.
Cool.
And good luck with everything. See you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Same to you.
Have a good day.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Yeah, all the best. Have a good day.